The iron shackles biting into Ava's wrists have already torn her skin raw, but pain like this stopped mattering a long time ago. She stands motionless on the wooden platform in the middle of the marketplace, her gaze locked downward, watching shadows move as buyers circle her slowly, like predators deciding whether she's even worth the effort. "Next lot," the auctioneer shouts, his voice slicing through the cold morning air. "Female. 22. House trained. Literate." His hand shoots out, gripping her chin with unnecessary force, jerking her face upward for inspection. Teeth are decent. Limbs intact. A little underfed, but that can be fixed. Ava feels the heat of humiliation crawl up her neck, but she doesn't resist. She learned that lesson the hard way. The last time she fought back, someone died for it. Months ago, raiders tore through her pack like a storm. The strongest were slaughtered. The weakest, sold. And Ava, she exists in that cruel space in between. Strong enough to survive. Weak enough to be owned. Starting bid, 50 silver. The number hangs in the air. Heavy, unrealistic. No one moves. Ava doesn't need to look up to understand why. She's already seen the way they look at her. Not even as a person, just a failed investment. Too thin. Too quiet. Too damaged. 30 silver, the auctioneer lowers quickly, his confidence slipping. A few men step closer now, circling her. Their eyes are colder up close. Sharper. Calculating. She knows exactly what they see. Not a healer. Not a survivor. Just labor. Temporary. Replaceable. Disposable. Her heartbeat quickens, but her breathing stays steady. Control is survival. Always. She's trained as a healer, the auctioneer adds suddenly, desperation creeping in. Knows herbs. Can set bones. Midwifery. A ripple of laughter spreads through the crowd. A healer. Someone scoffs. What use is that? Wolves heal or they die. Waste of silver. 20 silver. The voice is rough, heavy with something darker than greed. Ava's blood runs cold before she even looks. The man stepping forward is broad, scarred, with yellowed teeth and hands that look like they've broken more bodies than they've worked. And his eyes. They don't just look at her. They claim her. In that single glance. Ava sees her future. Endless labor. Pain for mistakes. A life measured in bruises and silence. 20 silver from Gareth, the auctioneer announces quickly, relief leaking into his tone. Do I hear 25? Nothing. The silence this time isn't hesitation. It's final. Gareth smirks, already certain. 15, he cuts in casually. Look at her. She won't last the winter. The auctioneer falters. Sir, that's 15, or I walk. The threat lands hard. Ava closes her eyes slowly. Maybe, if she works hard enough. Stays invisible. Doesn't give him a reason. The thought dies instantly. Because deep down, she already knows the truth. There is no version of that future where she survives. 15. The auctioneer's voice cracks. And then, everything changes. It's not loud at first. Not obvious. But something shifts. The air itself feels heavier. A pressure rolls through the marketplace, slow, suffocating. Conversations stop mid-sentence. Laughter dies instantly. Even the restless movement of the crowd freezes. Ava's wolf stirs violently inside her. Not in fear alone, but recognition. Raw. Ancient. Absolute. My king. Someone whispers. The Alpha King. No, it can't be. Against every instinct screaming at her to stay down, Ava looks up. The crowd is parting. Not moving. Breaking. People drop to their knees as he walks through them, effortlessly, like gravity itself bends around him. The auctioneer's face has gone completely pale. And then, she sees him. 100 gold. The voice is calm. Cold. Final. Not an offer. A decision. Ava's breath catches. Her wolf collapses instantly into submission inside her. Something she hasn't felt in months. The man standing before her doesn't look like the others. He stands above them. Apart. Tall. Controlled. Dangerous in a way that doesn't need to be proven. Dark hair falls across a face carved with sharp precision, but it's his eyes. Golden. Unnatural. Unforgiving. The Alpha King. Even without seeing him before, she knows. Everyone does. The conqueror of the Northern Territories. The wolf who didn't just win wars. He erased those who lost them. Ava's knees nearly give out. Why would someone like him want her? 100 gold, the auctioneer stammers, voice shaking. My lord, are you certain? A pause. You doubt your king. The temperature drops in an instant. Gareth goes pale. My lord, I had first claim. You had nothing. The words are quiet, but absolute. Golden eyes flick toward him. And that's enough. Leave. Gareth doesn't argue. Doesn't hesitate. He disappears. Just like that. Power isn't always loud. Sometimes, it's this. The Alpha King steps onto the platform. And suddenly, the space feels too small to breathe. He studies Ava. Not like the others did. Not like prey. Like something else entirely. You're a healer. The words catch her off guard. Out of everything he could ask. That's what matters. Yes, my lord, she says softly. I was trained by the Moon Bloom Pack. I know herbs, bones, births. Hope rises, dangerous, fragile. Maybe that's why. Maybe she isn't just property. Maybe she still has value. Good. That's all he says. Then he turns away. Rowan. A massive warrior steps forward instantly. Take her to the fortress. Feed her. Clean her. And just like that, he's done with her. Dismissed. Like she was never the center of the moment at all. Wait, Ava blurts, stepping forward. My lord, I can. A hand clamps onto her shoulder, hard. Rule 1, Rowan says quietly. You don't speak unless he allows it. His grip tightens slightly. Rule 2, you never look him in the eyes. A beat. Your property now. The word lands heavier than the chains ever did. Valuable property, he adds flatly. But still property. Ava nods. Because what else is there to do? At least, she's still alive. At least, someone saw enough value to pay for her. As she's led away, she risks one last glance back. The Alpha King is already gone. Like he was never there. But he was. And somehow, that changes everything. We cannot afford softness, not after everything we've built. The king's voice remains controlled, but something tight hides beneath it. She couldn't even walk, he adds, as if justifying himself. Weak, Craven cuts in immediately, his tone sharp and unforgiving. And now the entire pack has seen you protect that weakness. What happens when our enemies hear about this? Ava barely has time to process the tension before the servant's grip tightens painfully around her arm, pulling her away toward the fortress entrance. That was Craven, the woman whispers urgently, her voice low and serious. The pack's beater, and the king's uncle. If you value your life, you'll pray he forgets you exist. As the massive doors close behind them, swallowing them into shadow, Ava can still hear their voices arguing in low, dangerous tones, something deeper brewing beneath every word. 3 weeks pass, and Ava slowly begins to understand that the fortress is not just a place, it's a system, a machine built on discipline, control, and pain. Mornings begin with the violent clash of weapons, warriors pushing each other to the edge as if survival depends on it. By midday, servants move silently through cold stone corridors, invisible yet essential. By evening, the same warriors return bruised, limping, and bleeding, but no one asks for help. Not once. Ava keeps her head down, scrubbing floors and tending fires, grateful for the food and warmth she now has. No one strikes her, no one threatens her, and yet that absence of cruelty feels almost unnatural. But what unsettles her more is the suffering she sees daily. One afternoon, she notices a young warrior struggling to lift his arm, the joint clearly dislocated. It's an easy fix, something she was trained to handle, but when she steps forward and offers help, his reaction is immediate and hostile. "Stay back," he snarls, recoiling as if she's dangerous. "I don't need Omega weakness." Ava tries to explain, but he cuts her off, and soon others gather, watching her like she's done something wrong. "Healing is for the weak," one of them mutters, and a senior fighter steps in, reminding her coldly that she was brought to serve, not interfere. The message is clear: she has a place, and it is not as a healer. The pattern repeats itself again and again. A servant burns her hand. Ava is rejected. A guard's wound festers, ignored. Pain here is not something to fix, it is something to endure. With every rejection, her hope fades a little more. Maybe she misunderstood. Maybe the king never intended to use her abilities at all. But then why did he carry her himself? Why treat her with care, even briefly? The question stays with her, refusing to let go. One evening, as she cleans the Great Hall, the Alpha King enters with his advisors, discussing patrols and strategy in that same cold, commanding tone. But beneath it, Ava hears something unexpected. Fatigue, subtle but real. Before she can stop herself, she speaks. "My lord." The entire hall falls silent. Every gaze turns toward her, filled with shock and disapproval. The king barely looks at her, as if she doesn't exist. When she tries to speak again, one of the advisors cuts her off harshly, reminding her that a servant does not address the Alpha King. Desperation pushes her to insist that she is a healer, that she was bought for that purpose, but the response is brutal. "You are nothing." Rowan appears instantly, gripping her shoulder and apologizing on her behalf. The king doesn't even pause, simply ordering that it doesn't happen again before walking away. Just like that, she is dismissed, invisible once more. That night, frustration builds inside her until she can barely breathe. If she isn't meant to heal, why won't anyone just say it? Why keep her in this strange limbo? The answer comes the next morning, and it comes violently. A sickening crack echoes through the training courtyard as a young boy crashes to the ground, his leg twisted at an unnatural angle. He tries to stand but collapses, crying out in pain, and still no one moves. Craven approaches slowly, his expression filled with cold satisfaction. "Pathetic," he says, grabbing the boy's arm and twisting it until another bone breaks. "This is weakness." The boy's scream echoes across the courtyard, and something inside Ava finally breaks. She doesn't think, she runs. "Stop," she shouts, dropping beside the child as her hands begin to glow. Warmth flows from her palms into his broken body, bones realigning, flesh repairing itself with careful precision. Slowly, the boy's cries fade, replaced by stunned silence as his leg straightens, whole again. For a moment, everything is still. Then Craven's voice cuts through the air, filled with rage. "What is this?" Ava looks up to see him towering over her, furious, while behind him the king approaches, silent and watchful. Craven accuses her of defying their ways, of undoing the strength they are trying to build, demanding punishment. The king studies the scene carefully, the healed boy, Ava kneeling, her hands still glowing faintly. This is the moment that decides everything. Ava knows it. Any Omega would bow, would beg forgiveness, but she doesn't. She lifts her head and meets his gaze directly, daring him to condemn her for saving a life. The air tightens with tension before the king finally speaks. "The boy is more useful healed," he says calmly. "He can return to training sooner." Craven erupts in anger, but the king silences him with a single word, his authority crushing the entire courtyard into stillness. "Do not question me again." As guards pull Ava away, she can feel Craven's hatred burning into her back, but it's not him who stays in her thoughts, it's the king. That brief moment when something in his expression shifted, something that didn't match the cold mask he always wears. Not anger, not approval, something deeper, something human. In the days that follow, Ava waits, hoping that things will change now that the king defended her, that someone will finally come to her for help, that she'll be allowed to prove her worth. But nothing changes. The fortress remains the same. Pain is still strength. Healing is still weakness. And yet, she can't stop thinking about him. The way he looked at her, the way he chose logic over cruelty. It had to mean something. The knock comes late one evening, sharp and final. A guard stands at her door, his expression unreadable. The king wants you. For a moment, her heart stops, then starts racing. Fear, hope, and confusion collide all at once as she realizes. This might finally be the moment everything changes. This is exactly what he meant, an emergency. Ava doesn't hesitate even for a second. Her body moves before fear can catch up, dropping beside the injured wolf as her hands ignite with that familiar healing glow. Energy pours out of her, steady and controlled, forcing broken bone back into place, weaving torn muscle together, sealing flesh so cleanly it leaves no trace behind. The girl's agonized screams slowly dissolve into confused whimpers, then silence, as she stares at her restored leg like it doesn't belong to her. How dare you? Craven's voice lashes across the courtyard like a whip. Ava looks up to see him advancing, pale eyes burning with fury as he addresses the crowd. This Omega defies us again. She infects our warriors with weakness. But even as his anger rises, Ava catches sight of the Alpha King watching from above. Their eyes meet for the briefest moment, and something unexpected flashes through his expression. Approval, satisfaction, and beneath it, something warmer, something almost human. Pride. The realization strikes her hard. Despite everything he says, despite the rules he enforces, part of him is glad she acted. And suddenly, she understands, the real battle isn't just between healing and strength. It's inside him. A week later, the fortress trembles with movement as Ava wakes to the thunder of boots echoing across stone. She joins the other servants along the battlements, watching as the king's army gathers below. Hundreds of warriors fill the courtyard, some armored and human, others already shifted into massive wolves with burning eyes. At the front, the king sits atop a black destrier, his presence commanding even in silence. When he speaks, his voice carries across the fortress, sharp and powerful, calling his warriors to strength and victory. The response is deafening, howls, roars, a storm of loyalty. Ava watches until they disappear beyond the gates, something heavy settling in her chest, something she doesn't fully understand. But in the days that follow, something unexpected begins to change. Without the king's overwhelming presence, the fortress softens, slowly, cautiously. It starts with a single kitchen maid, trembling as she asks Ava for help with a burn she can't hide anymore. Ava heals her without hesitation, and relief spreads across the girl's face like sunlight breaking through clouds. Word spreads quietly after that. One by one, others come. A stable boy. A seamstress. A guard. Small injuries, small healings, but each one matters. Each one changes something. The shift is gradual but undeniable. Laughter begins to return in quiet corners. Children who once hid now play in open spaces. Even some warriors begin to ease their harsh discipline, helping instead of punishing. The fortress feels different, lighter, alive. And Ava moves through it all with growing confidence, her healing becoming something more than just a skill. It becomes a presence, a quiet force reshaping everything around her. For the first time since the auction block, she feels like she belongs. But beneath that fragile happiness, one thought never leaves her mind. What will happen when he returns? Will he see what she's done as progress, or betrayal? The answer comes in the middle of the night. Horns tear through the silence, not a call of victory, but a desperate cry. Ava rushes outside with the others as 3 riders burst through the gates, their wolves exhausted, their bodies covered in blood and dust. The king leads them, and one look at his face is enough to tell her everything. This is not victory. This is survival. Where is she? His voice roars across the courtyard. Where is the healer? Ava pushes forward instantly. I'm here. The relief that flashes across his face is brief but undeniable, and up close she sees how worn he is, how close to breaking. My uncle, he says, voice rough. Silver blades, poison. He won't survive without you. How far? She asks, already preparing herself. 2 hours, he answers. I'll carry you. She hesitates only a moment before answering, I can run too. Something shifts in his expression. Surprise, maybe even respect. His transformation is violent and powerful, bones reshaping, muscles twisting until a massive black wolf stands where the king once was. Ava's shift is slower, harder, but she forces it, and soon a smaller silver wolf runs beside him. The journey is brutal. He sets a pace that pushes her beyond her limits, but she doesn't stop. She can't. When they finally reach the camp, Craven lies on the ground, barely breathing, his body ravaged by poison. Ava shifts back instantly, ignoring everything but the urgency of the moment. The king follows, draping his cloak over her shoulders without hesitation before guiding her to his uncle's side. "Try," he says quietly when she hesitates. And she does. She pours everything she has into the healing, fighting the poison inch by inch, forcing life back into a body already halfway to death. Hours pass. Time disappears. When she finally collapses, Craven is breathing again, alive. "You saved him," the king whispers, gripping her hand tightly. For a moment, there is nothing but silence, exhaustion, and something fragile between them. Then Craven wakes. And everything breaks. He stares at his healed body in horror. "What have you done?" he demands, rage replacing weakness instantly. The king explains, calm but firm, but Craven rejects it. He claims death would have been better, that his sacrifice would have made the pack stronger. The king listens quietly, something shifting behind his eyes. "Perhaps you're right," he says at last, but when he looks at Ava, there's something else there, regret. "Return to the fortress," he tells her. "We'll speak later." As she prepares to leave, she feels Craven's gaze on her, burning with hatred so deep it feels personal. This isn't over. Not for him. When Ava returns, the fortress feels wrong again. The light she helped create begins to fade, replaced by tension, fear, and watchful eyes. Craven moves through the halls like a shadow, hunting for weakness. People still come to Ava, but quietly now, secretly, afraid of being seen. And the king, he says nothing. Days pass. Then weeks. He doesn't look at her, doesn't speak to her, as if that night never happened. But she remembers everything. The way he stayed beside her. The way he held her hand. The way he covered her without hesitation. And slowly, painfully, she realizes something she can't ignore, she's falling for him. The knock comes late one night. When she opens the door, it's Craven. "The king wants to see you," he says. But something feels wrong. The walk takes them deeper into the fortress, downward, into darkness. The air grows colder, heavier. The dungeon. Fear tightens in her chest. "Where is he?" she asks when they enter an empty chamber. Craven smiles. "He's not coming." The guards step forward, trapping her. "You're going to disappear tonight," he says calmly. Ava backs away, panic rising, but there's nowhere to go. "You're poison," he continues. "And poison must be removed." He lunges. His hand closes around her throat. Ava screams. And then chaos erupts. The king bursts in like a storm, fury radiating from him as he takes in the scene. "Let her go." The command shakes the room. Craven releases her, but his hatred doesn't fade. Words turn into accusations, accusations into threats, until finally Craven snaps. He draws a poisoned dagger and attacks. The king stops him, and what follows is brutal, uncle against nephew, power against power. But then the guards join in. Outnumbered, the king fights like something unstoppable, tearing through them with raw force. And still, it's not enough. Ava watches in horror as wounds begin to land, as blood stains the stone. And then, she sees it. Craven, rising behind him. Dagger ready. "Look out," she screams. Too late. The blade slides between the king's ribs. His eyes widen in shock as the blade sinks in, but instead of falling, something far more dangerous ignites in that golden gaze. Pain is there, yes, but beneath it, something darker awakens. "I'm sorry," Craven whispers, his voice trembling with something that almost sounds like regret. "It had to end this way. I won't let you destroy everything we built." For a moment, time freezes between them, uncle and nephew, the man who raised him and the man who chose to stand against him. Blood gathers at the king's lips as he looks up, and when he speaks, his voice is barely more than a breath. "So am I." The sound that follows is sharp, metal against stone, As his claws extend, and in one brutal, decisive motion, his hand drives forward, piercing through Craven's chest. The strike is clean, merciless. Craven's expression shifts from fury to disbelief, then emptiness, as life drains from his eyes. His body collapses to the ground with a hollow thud that echoes through the chamber. The king sways, the cost of that final blow written in every trembling movement, before collapsing forward into Ava's arms. The poison spreads quickly. She can feel it beneath her hands, creeping through him like a living thing, turning his skin pale, draining the strength from his body. His breathing grows shallow, uneven, fragile. "No," Ava whispers, her hands already glowing as panic claws through her chest. "No, you're not dying. Not like this." But even as she pours her power into him, she knows the truth. This isn't like before. This poison is deeper, stronger, and it might take everything she has. They carry him to his chambers in a blur of urgency, a silent procession of fear moving through the fortress. Ava doesn't let go of him for even a second, her energy flowing into him constantly as if stopping would mean losing him forever. By the time they reach his room, the entire fortress already knows. Craven is dead. The king is dying. And everything they believed in is unraveling. But Ava sees none of that. All she sees is him, lying motionless, fading. She drops beside him, pressing her hands to his chest, forcing her power into him again and again, fighting the poison as it resists her at every turn. Hours pass. Time loses meaning. Servants come and go, whispering, watching, but she doesn't stop. She doesn't move. Rowan stands guard, silent and tense, but even he cannot pull her away. Because now, there is no denying it. She loves him. Not the Alpha King, not the legend, not the power. The man. The one who carried her when she couldn't walk. The one who stayed beside her through the night. The one who looked at her like she mattered. And now she's losing him. "Please," she begs, tears falling freely as her strength begins to fade. "Don't leave me. I need you." His lips move weakly, forming her name without sound, again and again, like he's holding on to it with everything he has left. "I'm here," she whispers, leaning closer. "I'm right here." His hand twitches, reaching for hers, and she grabs it instantly, holding on as if letting go would end everything. Then she makes a choice, a dangerous one. She gives more. Not just healing, but herself. Her life force pours into him, merging with her power in one desperate attempt to pull him back from the edge. For a moment, nothing happens. Then suddenly, the poison breaks. It shatters under the force of her energy, dissolving like it was never there. Color returns to his skin. His breathing deepens. Life comes rushing back into him all at once. Ava collapses beside him, completely drained, but he's alive. Somehow, impossibly, he's alive. Dawn light spills into the room when his eyes finally open. Confusion flickers across his face, then recognition. "Ava," he breathes, his voice stronger now. "I'm sorry," she says immediately, guilt crashing into her all at once. "This is my fault. If I had just stayed in my place." "Stop." His hand closes around hers, firm despite his weakness. "Don't you dare blame yourself." She shakes her head, tears falling again. "Your uncle is dead because of me." "He's dead because he chose hate over hope," the king replies quietly. His thumb brushes over her knuckles, grounding her. "I've been watching you," he continues. "Everything you've done. The change you brought. The smiles, the laughter, the life." His gaze softens as he looks at her. "You were right. Pain isn't strength. It's just pain. We hid behind it because we were afraid." Ava stares at him, her heart tightening. "You're not afraid," she whispers. He lets out a quiet breath. "I was terrified. Of weakness. Of losing everything again." His hand lifts to her cheek, gentle, steady. But real strength is choosing to heal. To build. To protect. "My lord," she murmurs, overwhelmed. "Cain," he corrects softly. "My name is Cain." The intimacy of it sends a quiet shock through her. "Thank you," he whispers. "For saving me, for saving all of us." He pulls her closer, slowly, carefully, as if she might break. When his lips meet hers, the kiss is soft at first, uncertain, almost reverent. But when she responds, when she leans into him, it deepens, carrying everything they've both been holding back. Fear. Relief. Love. It's not just a kiss, it's a promise that neither of them will face the darkness alone again. Spring arrives like a quiet miracle. The fortress begins to change in ways no one thought possible. Where there were once only training grounds, gardens now grow, filled with healing herbs. The clash of weapons still echoes, but now it's joined by laughter, by voices encouraging rather than breaking. Warriors learn not just to fight, but to protect. Cain changes too. His power remains, if anything stronger than before, but it's different now. Balanced. Where once there was fear, there is respect. Where there was silence, there is life. The pack no longer shrinks from him, they stand with him. And on the night of the full moon, beneath silver light, everything comes full circle. Before the entire pack, Cain takes Ava's hand. The same king who once saw kindness as weakness now looks at her with open devotion. You came here as a servant, he says, his voice carrying across the courtyard. But you freed us all. You showed us that strength isn't measured by what we destroy, but by what we protect. His grip tightens slightly, steady, sure. You didn't just heal our bodies. You healed who we are. And under the moon's glow, he claims her, not as property, not as a possession, but as his equal. His mate. His partner. Their wolves rise together, black and white, power and compassion, no longer opposing forces, but one.